So, welcome, Mithilesh Ji. I'm super excited to have you on our podcast. This is the first time I'm meeting someone senior who understands Bitcoin so deeply. So, I'm so thankful for your time and really, really appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you for inviting me over. I hope this session that we are going to have together will be beneficial to many others who have still not dipped their toe into the Bitcoin community's ocean.
So, straight out of the bat, before we get into introducing you, what do you think is your perspective of Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin according to you?
Bitcoin is the most revolutionary idea which whose time has come. Actually, if you look at Bitcoin in its totality, it solves problem of the society not just from one angle but from many angles. Bitcoin gives an economic solution, Bitcoin gives a financial solution, Bitcoin gives a technological solution, Bitcoin gives a solution for trust, Bitcoin gives a solution for many of the social problems, spiritual problems. And that word may sound crazy, that something about money and something spiritual. So however, once you go deeper into this, then you understand that what actually this innovation is. You cannot compare it to just the money or medium of exchange, although it is, but it is so many other things at the same time. I normally take the example of platypus. It's not a mammal, it's not a bird, it's something totally different whose time has come, and it is the most appropriate and most profound innovation for the information age, for the whole of humanity to take its direction into towards something where we can reclaim the happiness for humanity as a whole. It has the
Thank you
potential
so
of
much,
that.
sir. That is such a great definition, and we could spend hours, days, and maybe years just exploring each of the threads around that. So, why don't you help our audience introduce yourself and help our audience share of what is your background? How did you come to where you are? Some little background will be very helpful, sir.
Well, I will not talk of the places where I have worked, or I will not even talk of the degrees and certificates that I acquired as my education. I would just say that I have been in the field of technology. I have been in the field of literature, spirituality, and philosophy. And I have studied Indian philosophy and Western philosophy. Indian spirituality, I have gone quite deep, exploring most of the paths that people normally go by the surface, but I have gone very deep. I can claim that whatever technological fields the in the fourth industrial revolution of the information age that you say, I try to keep myself abreast with the latest updates and whatever is the state of art in those areas. My background, I have worked in the field of engineering. I have passed out from a premier engineering institution of India. I have gone probably into the best educational residential school in this country, and which was funded by government 100%. So I have had good quality of education that anybody could have had in India. That is in terms of school, college, or engineering. I have had the experience of working with the best in their field, whether it is in the field of real estate, engineering, or in financial services. So I have I know the corporate world, not only in India but outside India as well. I have worked outside India as well and in some of the good countries. I have interacted with the topmost people in the business, some of them who are the who's of who, the global business world. But those things are besides. I believe that your biggest strength is what your knowledge, wisdom, information, and empathy that you carry with you for humanity.
Thank you so much, Mithilesh ji. So, what's your Bitcoin story? ये सब रास्ते में and all of this journey with technology lens. What is your Bitcoin story? How did Bitcoin arrive on your table, and then how did you get this conviction that you have?
Well, I have been author since I would say time immemorial, whenever I can remember. In 2013, I wrote a book which is titled Technology for Revolution, Opportunity for a New Religion and a New Society. And the concept behind that book is that the time for the revolutions through street demonstrations or fighting or violence is gone. It's the information age. So if you look into that book, the cover shows eight collage of eight personalities, and those eight personalities are Kabir, Socrates, Osho, and Buddha. And on the bottom, we have Gandhi, Mandela, Marx, and Martin Luther King Jr. And the whole book is splattered, cover is splattered with the logos of the technology company, including Google, Meta, all the companies, telecom companies, all the technology companies. So you can understand that when the thoughts of the spiritual teachers and social reformers are aided by the technological tools, what could be the destination for the humanity? At that time, I was not aware of Bitcoin, but that was the time when I wrote this book. I was looking for the solutions, and then Bitcoin hit my consciousness. I was going through, uh, I was listening to a radio news where someone was explaining about the investment opportunity, and listener asked about Bitcoin. And the person who was responding to that question, he had no idea, but he just said that it is a digital money. And I started researching. So that started in 2014. And then I first dipped my toe, then started studying. And once you study with honesty, with an open mind, I believe any person who has a rational brain, who is honest, if he studies about Bitcoin, he will have to go deep within the rabbit hole, and then he cannot come out. It's a
Yeah,
one way.
once you've
It's a
seen
one
it,
way.
you can't unsee
It's a
it.
yeah. It's a one way travel into Bitcoin.
Completely agree. I couldn't
You
agree
become
more
you
with
become
you.
a fan of Bitcoin. You
Correct.
become
Completely.
you realize that Bitcoin is the solution of many problems that the world is facing today. When I look at, I mean, forget what Bitcoin for a moment. The creator of Bitcoin, the innovator. I'm so intrigued and amazed by what this person is. His Bitcoin holding as on date, it is worth more than $110 billion. Can you think of
Correct.
a philanthropist in the world who has donated $110 billion for the humanity till the history of humanity till date in the last thousand of years? No. Can you think of someone else who could have been able to solve the Byzantine general's problem, which has been there for thousands of years? This person did. Can you think of, I mean, I would say that the Turing Award is supposed to be the biggest award in computer science. Nobel Prize is supposed to be the biggest award in the field of peace, in the field of economics. Or, I mean, for this person, what he has done, the Turing Award, Nobel Prizes, different fields combined together, is a very small thing in comparison to the gift that he has given to the humanity. And that this statement you cannot understand unless you go deeper into what he has done. And I would say he has not done anything new. Prior to him, many people have done many things. He just assembled, just took the elements from different people who took things from what Adam Back has done. He took things from what Vidai has done. What he took things from what Nick Szabo has done, and he assembled them together. And the proof of work, the time stamping, the cryptography, all those things he brought together and solving the double spend problem. It's a beautiful concept.
Excellently explained, Mithilesh ji.
Yeah,
So much. You've covered so much on the whole. Maybe the white paper is fully covered by that small statement. But as you rightly mentioned, sir, anyone who spent 50 to 100 hours, there is a one-way street. He or she. I have not met a single person who spent about 50 plus hours exploring Bitcoin and has come out with any other opinion than saying Bitcoin is the most transformative technology, and every individual, every family, every company, every country will buy Bitcoin, but because there's no option, this is just the future. It's just
yeah.
here, but just not evenly distributed.
People will buy Bitcoin at the price that they deserve. We all Bitcoiners know that. Whenever my friends ask me that, I mean, nobody is ready to understand Bitcoin, and some of them would come and tell me that, why don't you help me acquire some Bitcoin? I said that I won't do that unless you spend at least 50 hours understanding it. I can tell you how to understand. I can give you material. I can even come to you to explain all your queries. You can ask me anything. But if you are disinterested and you want me to help you acquire some Bitcoin, that is no use. That is against the philosophy.
Correct. The three
Uh,
mistakes of Bitcoin: don't buy Bitcoin, not buying Bitcoin. The second is not understanding how to custody it, and if you don't understand it, then you'll sell it early, either in panic
yeah.
or in excitement. Both ways it'll be wrong. So
I have many friends. I have many friends who purchased Bitcoin in 2016 and then probably made 4 5 times. Then they sold. They were very happy. And despite I telling them, don't do this ever, but they sold. But after
correct.
that, they have been trying that they would purchase the Bitcoin at the same price at which they sold, and they could never buy it.
Yeah, yeah. This is standard truth in the Bitcoin ecosystem, that once you've sold your Bitcoin, you will never in your lifetime be able to get that many coins ever in your lifetime, because the next epoch comes and your time price
Yes.
point completely changes.
And we all learn through our own mistakes. Actually, it's not that I have been very smart from the very beginning. I have also done the trading. And at one point of time, I used to think that I'm a very smart trader, not in Bitcoin, but in the stocks, because I thought that I know the fundamental analysis, I know the technical analysis, I know all the events, I know I have a reasonably working brain, intelligence, and I have the reasonable amount of information available to me. So I thought that I'm very smart, I would not make any mistake. But then the market humbles everyone. Whoever has that arrogance that I can beat the market consistently, market teaches them that it is not possible.
Yeah, as they say, Bitcoin is an ego test. It's not an
Yes,
IQ test, it's an ego test.
yes.
So, Mithleshji, what would be your advice to a young person? We'll talk about a couple of personas. So one persona is a young person. He's very successful in life. He might be working for a large tech company, bank, financial institution, earns very good salary, lives in a decent flat, has his own car, and is saving money in mutual funds, stocks, fixed deposits, and real estate, and thinking of buying a house. And this person comes to hear about Bitcoin, and ignores. What should this person do? Ignore it because this doesn't fit into their frame of things. And if they ignore, what will be the consequences from a financial perspective, financial health perspective of that individual?
Well, you all Bitcoiners always say have fun, stay poor. So that is a very well-known phrase amongst the Bitcoin community. But what I do when people come across me and who I find that they are reasonably intelligent, reasonably informed, but they are averse to Bitcoin, I tell them, don't invest a single rupee, but spend some time. If you don't have any other things, just a few videos you can see of Michael Saylor of India's Indianapolis. And there are some of the things which will just turn your head. And if that doesn't make any difference to you, why don't you do one thing, just 1% of your investable surplus? You dip your toe, see what happens. Don't invest anything Even if you lose your 1% of investable surplus, it is not going to make any big difference to you. But probably there is a chance that this 1% will outsmart your 99%. Take this chance. The odds are always in your favor. But I normally insist that first you start with 1%. Then maybe if you are confident that this is something you have studied a little more, you can go slowly up. And there would be a time when probably you will have 100% of your investable surplus in Bitcoin. I'm not telling you to do that right away. Start with 1% so that you don't regret later. And unless you study, you will not understand when I say that you will regret later. So study, getting informed. In the information is the biggest asset is the information, the knowledge, and the right knowledge. People base their notion of Bitcoin based on what they see in the mainstream media. And most of the journalists, they are all ill-informed. I mean, they appear to be educated, they appear to be doing research, but they are actually illiterate people.
Yeah.
Having a
So
degree from a school of journalism doesn't make them informed. So they write something total, absolute nonsense, which is directly against the truth, opposite to the truth. They don't understand Bitcoin and they still write about it.
yeah, yeah. So very well put. In the information age, the power is information, and if you're
Yes.
not collecting, verifying, and up tiering your information, then you will be left behind.
Right.
This is second person. This person is a CFO or a treasurer of a medium to large company, and this person has been hearing about Bitcoin and Bitcoin treasury and all of this. But this person then looks at his from his or her experience and says, "Oh no, this is too crazy. This is like." Uh, Jeopardizing the success of the company if I do anything of this sort of putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. What's your advice to that treasurer, CFO, finance person, or a small and medium business owner?
Now there are examples. Earlier, had you asked me this question 2, 3 years ago, earlier, I would not have been able to give examples. But today, the strategy is the biggest example. It is probably going to be one of the biggest companies in the world because of its Bitcoin treasury strategy. Then there are followers like Marathon Digital or 21 Corporation. So no, there are companies, there are precedents which these people who are in the financial world, they can see what these people are doing. And they are not doing something in the behind the curtains. They are doing everything in the open. His playbook is available for everyone to see as to what he has done, which has borne through. So, if you have basically any CFO, if he didn't understand that his treasury reserve in cash is continuously being drained because of the inflation and the avenues, he would put it in real estate, bond, stock, different places. And if he sees that these things are all directly linked to Bitcoin, not to Bitcoin, but to the fiat, whereas all these investment opportunities are only to beat the inflation so that your savings, the fruit of your hard-earned money, is not eroded because of the inflation, which is designed in the fiat system. If you look into the fiat system, the system is designed that if you are a saver, if you don't spend all your money today, whatever is your saving, it will lose its value over time. And being an informed CFO, if you can't understand this, and when the opportunity is available to you, someone else is already doing this. Probably, if you'll ask someone who was in his mid adulthood during the 70s, till that time, there were not so many people advising people for investments. Savings was the biggest virtue. Only after the fiat money started being printed out of thin air, these concepts of investing to beat the inflation came in vogue. And all these financial advisors and investment advisors came into the market. And most of the people who are CFOs today, they are post 71 born. So they don't understand it. They have never
Got
seen
it.
what the value of savings is. They only understand investment. But the true value is saving. How do you preserve your purchasing power of your hard-earned money? And if they can't
S-
understand, they have an additional responsibility because they are not doing it for themselves. They are doing it for their shareholders. And they have a fiduciary responsibility. It's an ethical, moral duty to preserve the value for their shareholders, for their company. And it will be a dereliction of duty.
So brilliantly put. I was in the strategy conference this week, earlier this week, and hearing directly from Michael and Fung of how from profit and loss statement they are redefining the metrics of success, redefining the metrics of how to measure such companies. But as you rightly mentioned, uh, this is open playbook, published, open sourced by Michael himself, and he's such a generous proponent of sharing his understanding and knowledge. And I also completely agree that it is a fiduciary's responsibility for everyone who's managing finances for a company to their shareholders to understand, and then once they have understood they can take their action. But ignoring to say, hey, I will not even spend the time when the playbook is out and a $1 billion company has become a $100 billion company and on path to become a $1 trillion company and maybe the first $10 trillion
Yeah.
company.
Yeah. I tell people that whenever we talk of some super intelligent person or complicated knowledge, it's not a rocket science because rocket science is supposed to be the most complicated knowledge stream. And I tell them that a literal rocket scientist from MIT, he had this problem as to how to preserve the values for my shareholders.
Correct.
And he came out with the solution and he shared that solution with the world.
Yes.
That is for
Yes,
anyone to take cue from.
as Michael keeps saying, doing something is overrated. So,
Yes.
so yeah, and okay, so let's move to persona three. This
Yeah.
persona three is either a politician or a strong, big bureaucrat, IS officer, IRS officer, and they want to do well-being for the country, and they are very, very focused. And what is your advice to them about Bitcoin? How should they think about Bitcoin?
For them, the most important thing is that they must understand it first. They must go through courses. They must commission the people to teach them. They must have open interaction rather than having any closed mind because they have only seen the fiat world. So they should understand the differences between probably some workshop based on the Fiat standard book of Citizen Emmers. If they could understand, and if only if the policymakers they would understand what are the perils of Fiat system. Fiat systems in some of the things it works very well, but
Yeah,
how does it affect the masses? How does it affect the society? What are the ills? What are the pros and cons of the fiat system and the hard money system? So, if they will understand, and a true statesman, if they will understand, they will implement it. There would still be unscrupulous politicians and bureaucrats whose only intention is to grab power at the cost of masses without caring for the masses. They keep telling that I am the chief servant or Pradhan Sevak or the public servant or anything. These claims are only to fool the people. Nobody comes in politics today to actually serve. But if by exception someone comes, he understands, then he will accept and adopt it. Anyway, in any case, it is inevitable. If they don't adopt it today, they will have to do it tomorrow. And probably they will be the laggards, which when I'm not talking of India or any specific country. Whoever would try to, ignore it will have to pay the prices. And even the small countries like El Salvador, like Bukele, or Bhutan in our neighborhood, if
Yeah,
they can
Bhutan is doing
understand it,
amazing.
if they can understand it, we have a large bureaucracy, and I have a very high respect for my bureaucracy's intelligence. The people who crack the civil services, UPSC, they are really highly intelligent people. Most of them would be ready to understand it, but then the Bitcoin takes the power. Bitcoin pulls the rugs from the people who unscrupulously try to coerce and exploit the masses. The
Yeah,
fiat system runs on the whims and fancies of the politicians, not for the welfare of the people, but for the welfare of the people in the power. The money that is printed out of thin air is benefited first, the people who are close to that money printer. It doesn't percolate to the people on the bottom. So, if they are honest, if they are really public servants, if they have a desire to public, incidentally or unfortunately, there is a substantial degeneration amongst the people, the highly intelligent people who go in our bureaucracy, and they don't go there. Although in all of their interviews, they would serve that I want to join this service to serve people, but mostly they try to serve themselves in their personal interest. Most of the politicians that you see today, not only in India but in other countries as well, they are there to serve themselves and not for the masses. They too appear to be serving masses sometimes because that serves their personal interest more. So
yeah.
if they are honest, they will study, they will adopt. But if they don't, subsequently, a time will come when it will become inevitable for them. But probably by that time it will be late. And the
Yeah,
sufferers
it's
will
so
be the people
interesting.
of their country.
Sorry, go ahead, sir.
And the sufferers will be the people of their country, the masses of their country. It would be because of the stupidity for a few people at the top that the whole country will suffer.
Yeah, and it's so interesting the game theory on it that if the politician or the bureaucrat or whatever, even for their self-interest, their
Yeah,
self-interest will be better served if they understood Bitcoin and they allocated to Bitcoin versus remaining in the fiat world. They lose power to be able to control the masses. But if
yeah.
they're truly thinking about their self-interest and their financial future, they might be better off on allocating at least small understanding Bitcoin, because otherwise that fiat that gives them derives the source of their power is anyways going to zero.
See, these politicians still assume that people can be kept in the dark. They don't realize that information has now become ubiquitous. Earlier, there was no avenues for people to save. If people could save in gold, they could confiscate it. If they kept in the bank, they could always freeze it or demonetize it. This option to save and have control on their asset was never earlier available to the masses. Now it is available. This is the biggest gift of Satoshi to the world. And this gift is available in the form of information. People are going to exercise that option. This option has now become available. The genie is out of the bottle. Now it cannot be thrown down and shut down back. So the
Excellent.
people understand. If the politicians would not understand, people will vote with their feet. If they will coerce, if they will force, people would go away. People would migrate to the friendlier places. And that
S-
would leave only the stupid, uneducated, uninformed people that would take the society towards backwards.
Yes, so beautifully said. And this is such a good segue on custody. What do you think about custody and self custody? And even if those people who are buying Bitcoin and they are at generic exchanges and leaving it at generic exchanges, what do you think? What's your point of view on custody, and what do you think about custodying and self custody of Bitcoin?
We Bitcoiners say, not your key, not your coin. If you keep your Bitcoin, in on exchange, the government can any day go and tell that Bitcoin exchange that freeze all the assets there and transfer it to the treasury. So you are left with nothing. This is the first time the gift has come to you where you can control your asset. You can have your own key in your absolute control, and still you don't want to exercise it because you want to go the bank way. That the government, you think that the money in the bank is yours. Actually, the money you think is in your bank, money is not there. It has been loaned out, and it has been loaned out 20 times more than the deposits are there. Bank, the word means someone you can trust. This is opposite actually because they have been cheating you. And so you have now an opportunity. You have now a gift given to you by Satoshi. Avail it. If you want to leave your coin with centralized exchanges, they can any day vanish. They can declare bankruptcy. They can be hacked. So it's not your key, not your coin. And there are simple opportunities. I mean, you can have the hardware wallets. Even if you don't want to invest in hardware wallets and if your amount is small, you can go for the non-custodial wallets. If you don't want to keep, if you think that you might lose your phone, laptop, have it written 12 words, 24 words, seed phrase. Put it in wherever you want. Di- Keep it at 12 different places. All your 12 words. If you want, if I mean, you have that kind of apprehension. But 12 words anybody can remember. If someone understands Bitcoin, for him to remember 24 words, it's child's play.
So beautifully articulated. Now, there's some people who say, "Hey, Bitcoin is the first version of it. It is the AOL version of it. The Google version will come, or this is the MySpace of it. This is the Facebook version will come. So now I have the latest coin, which might be the Solana or Doge coin, and I have invested." So I have some friends who say, though that, oh, you have not upgraded yourself, you have not studied, the latest Bitcoin is this, and that is where I am investing. What's your thought on that, and what is your advice to that?
Everything else in this crypto world except Bitcoin is a scam. I'm putting the emphasis. And this is a system where winner takes all. And probably I admire Satoshi once again that from the day zero he covered his path in this information age where it is extremely difficult to hide your electronic signatures and identity from the world. And when the whole world, with all the talented people and all its intelligence, is trying to find out who this person was, he had covered his path from the day zero. Everything else, there are some people who float it, even if it is a proof of, but basically they mine it for themselves. Then they float it in the market. They have a marketing division. They try to make fool of the people, and they want to have the other bag holders. What they do, they will sell their Ethereum. I'm taking the name. They will sell their Solana. They will sell their Cardano. They will sell their Monero and everything else. They will say that this is this, many things. That I'm more private. I'm a virtual computer, world computer, the smart contract, and all those things. They'll claim. They will sell to the other people and buy Bitcoin because they understand. And my simple test is that if you find someone that there is a MyBap, there is some promoter who is actively involved, he is a scammer. There is no other application of blockchain in terms of money. There could be other applications. And there could be time stamping application, there could be record keeping applications. But for money, it will be the winner takes all, and it will be Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. Everything else will go to zero against it.
So beautifully articulated, Mithilesh ji. um, That's all that I thought we'll cover. I'm really thankful for your gracious time. Is there anything else, Mithleshji, that you would want to share in your Bitcoin journey that you would want the audience to learn from you?
Well, I say that learn, study, go deeper, and you will be able to connect it directly with spirituality, directly with the true religion. And when I say true religion, I don't mean Hinduism, Islam, Sikhism, Christianity, Buddhism, and the other things. True religion is when you have empathy for the other people, when you start living for the society, when you are concerned, when you are compassionate for others. So, if you'll understand Bitcoin, you'll understand this is a very potent tool for your true religion, to live a true religious life. It takes you on the path of spirituality. I think there are many people who are just focusing on this aspect of the spiritual and religious aspect of Bitcoin. So, I mean, again, it's very amazing that who this person, that Satoshi is. How can a single person be a computer scientist, a mathematician, a philosopher, an economist, a social thinker? He is everything and the biggest philanthropist. And on top of that, he is able to cover his path.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
which is the biggest gift. And I feel that if not for anything, study Bitcoin to understand this, the greatest person of the present day information age. This
excellent.
is the greatest
Thank you
gift.
so much, Mithleshji, for your time. Where can people reach out to you or connect with you, if at all? Are there any places that, if they want to explore your work, that you would want our listeners to be aware of and connect with you?
Well, I try not to be in public platforms. I'm not on social media. However, I definitely interact on one-to-one basis, and people can find me in Bitcoin communities, Bitcoin ecosystems. If you find someone serious, you can share my contact details with them. And I love to speak to people if they are rational, if they want to understand, they want to discuss. I'll tell you one thing. In Nyaya philosophy, you are aware of there are six philosophical schools of Hinduism, which is Sant, Mimamsa, Vaiseshika, Nyaya, Yoga, and Vedanta. Nyaya is a philosophical school which says that you have to explore truth on the basis of logic and rational. And they say that when people discuss using logic and rational, there are three kinds of discussions. First thing is known as samvad, where the person wants to understand something and he knows that the other person has the knowledge. So he will go and ask for all his doubts, and the other person will clear that doubt, and the knowledge will get transmitted. The best example of that is Srimad Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna transmits the knowledge to Arjun. Arjun asks for all his doubts to be cleared, and that is a samvad between Krishna and Arjun. It's called Krishna Arjun Samvad. Bhagavad Gita. The other is Vad, where you and the other person they come up with their viewpoint, they discuss openly, they listen to the other person openly, and they are open to change. And either one person accepts the view of the other, or both of them go to a third point perspective. But again, they explore something new. So on the basis of rational logic. The third thing is which is known as Vivad or Jal, which is basically again you start with like Vad, where you come up with your premises and assumptions and knowledge, and you start discussing. And even after you have no logic and rationale to support your viewpoint, you still stick to that point, which happens in the case of Bitcoin. If you discuss with people you can explain them everything, but they will still have a dissonance. They will not be ready to accept it, that this is something better to be adopted. So that is known as vivad. This does not take you anywhere. And the last thing is known as vitanda, where you try to kill the debate, the knowledge transmission. Here, if I tell someone about Bitcoin, I'm taking Bitcoin as an example for going towards truth. The person will start discussing me. How are you going to tell me I have a PhD in economics? I have taught in this university, and you are going to tell me? I have been the advisor to the government of this and this, and you are going to tell me what to do. So he's trying to kill the debate. He's not sticking to the points. So if you go through the philosophical concepts, you can understand. And I always welcome people to come and discuss with me. I don't want any recognition. I don't want any remuneration or reward from anyone. But I want the knowledge to be discussed, transmitted. I will be open to change my view if you can convince me.
So beautifully articulated, मिथिलेश जी. संवाद, वाद, विवाद एंड वितंडा. संवाद, वाद, विवाद का तो मुझे पता था, बट वितंडा मैंने पहली बार सीखा है. एंड बिटकॉइन में कितनी बार
That is to kill the debate.
करेक्ट, कितनी बार मेरे साथ वितंडा होता है, स्पेशली आई सी इट, स्पेशली एंड जनरली जो लोग बैंकर होते हैं या इकोनॉमिस्ट होते हैं, वो फर्स्ट चालू ही वितंडा से
With
करते
Allah
हैं. वो
says,
वाद संवाद करने की तो कोई गुंजाइश ही नहीं छोड़ते हैं. बट आई हैव लर्न सो मच फ्रॉम दिस कॉन्वर्सेशन. इट्स अ प्रिविलेज टू हैव यू, मिथिलेश जी, and thank you so much for your time. And we would definitely do many more rounds of conversation to learn from your knowledge and experience. So thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate your time.
thank you.